Welcome to A Day in Her Life. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I'm fascinated by how other women make their lives work. A few housekeeping items before we get into the intro and today's episode. I was recently exchanging emails with Emily Landers of How'd She Do That podcast. First off, she was so incredibly gracious with her words, and her podcast is a great listen if you haven't yet. And she reminded me of the importance of podcast reviews. So if you're enjoying A Day in Her Life, please take a moment to submit a review wherever you're getting your podcasts. It can really help other listeners find the podcast and increase listenership. Also, if you have any suggestions or requests for guests, please submit a survey on my website, adayinherlife.com. Okay, thank you for indulging me in my shameless plug. In today's episode, I sit down with Zara Hanawalt. Zara is a freelance writer who's been featured in Cosmopolitan, Parents.com, and Glamour, as well as a mom of twins. Zara shares how she isn't quite a morning person and how her favorite times of day are both in her bed, with her kids and her book respectively. Zara shares how, as a working mom, she needs to optimize her chunks of time to get her work done as efficiently as possible, how some low-stakes TV can be a great form of self-care, and how her walk is a critical part of her day. I loved hearing about the fun things she does with her kids, the trade-offs she's making in this phase of life, and how she's making her days work. Thank you so much, Zara, for joining me on today's episode. I hope you all love it. Let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Zara Hanawalt is joining me to discuss a day in her life. Hi, Zara. How's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great. Awesome. So let's jump right in. Would you mind setting the scene for us? Tell us a little bit about where you live, who you are, and what your family looks like.
Sure. I live in Pittsburgh with my husband and our 4-year-old twins. We have a boy named Niall and a girl named Serena, and I'm a freelance journalist. So I work across a lot of different publications in kind of the digital media space. I write a lot about women's health, parenting, culture, issues like that.
Awesome. Sounds great. Would you mind taking us through a day in your life? So kind of to kick off, how do your mornings go? What does, if you want to go through a specific day or a typical day, either works, but what do your mornings typically look like in your house?
Sure. I will start by saying that I'm not a morning person at all. I know a lot of parents love to get up before their kids and get a start to their day. It's not really my style. My husband is usually up pretty early, but my kids like to come into the bed with us in the middle of the night. So I love to just snuggle with them in the morning. Mm-hmm. And luckily, my kids aren't super early risers either. So I'm usually able to keep them in bed until like 7:30, 8-ish with me. So we love our snuggles in the morning. I would say on this particular day that I'm thinking of, we woke up at about 7:30 and it was my son and I were up first. And so we just kind of chatted and snuggled, and he's really into the weather right now. So he likes to ask Alexa about the weather in all different cities that he's visited. And so we do some of that while my daughter is still snoozing. And then she wakes up, we get out of bed at about 8. And I am a shower first thing in the morning person. So I go and I take a really quick shower. And then in terms of like a beauty skincare routine, it's just slap some sunscreen on and go. And then I head into help my kids kind of put their, finishing touches on of getting dressed and brushing their teeth for the day, and head downstairs and I make some oatmeal for the three of us. My husband usually helps out in the morning and he usually makes the breakfast, but he's been just kind of slammed with work recently. So I've just been taking it over. And so this day we made some oatmeal. We sat down, we had some breakfast, put some finishing touches on their lunch because they were going to camp this day. And then what happens at 9 a.m. kind of varies from day to day. So my kids this past year were in school 3 days a week and they'd be at school at 9. Some days they go to my parents' house for a few hours in the morning. Some days they're just home with me all day. But like I said, this particular day they went to camp, which they do at their preschool, which is actually just like right through my backyard. So I leave home at 8:59 and I get them there by 9 and I'm home by 9, which is pretty incredible. We just walk right over. And then when I get home, I like to clean up the kitchen. So I'll put on a podcast, listen to that, unload the dishwasher from the night before, put all the breakfast dishes in, clean down the counters, et cetera, et cetera. I will pour myself some coffee, which is also something I do while I'm making the kids breakfast. You have to have the coffee first thing.
Hmm.
Pour myself some coffee and then I'll sit down to work. And the most I ever really get at this point in terms of childcare chunks is like 4 hours. So right now the kids are in camp from 9 to 1. So I like to really maximize that time and just like put my head down and just work as much as I possibly can for those hours. I feel like I've heard people say, if you want something done, hire a woman. If you want something done fast, hire a mom.
Hmm.
It makes a lot of sense because I feel like when you're crunched for time and you don't have all day and you know that you need to get back to parenting responsibilities, it's very motivating and it's very easy to work efficiently and be focused on what you need to do for those shorter periods of time. So I just kind of power through work for those 4 hours, and work can look a little bit different from day to day as a freelancer. There's some days when I'm working on deadlines. There's some days when I'm sort of like jumping back and forth between a few projects. Some days I'm doing a little bit of working on a deadline that's a longer lead, but I'm also like pitching new ideas or brainstorming. So it can really vary from day to day, but I like to keep my hours somewhat consistent, kind of starting at 9 and then working essentially as long as my kids will let me. And then at 1 o'clock, I head out to pick them up from camp. So I go pick them up and then I take a little break at that point. I spend a little bit of time with them, hear about their day a little bit, give them a snack, clean out their lunch boxes, clean out their bags, make sure they've like used the bathroom and washed hands and all of that stuff. And then they'll usually play for a little while I do sort of that cleanup of their lunch boxes and their school bags. And then after a little while of doing that, I will set them up with a TV show. And sometimes I will have lunch with them while they have their snack. Sometimes my husband and I will have lunch together. Sometimes like the two of us will sit down and have lunch while they have that snack. But this particular day, they were just watching some TV and I just heated up some leftovers and I sat down and watched a few YouTube videos while I had my lunch, which is something I kind of love to do. It's like a nice little break in the middle of the day.
What do you typically watch?
I love to watch the food diaries on Harper's Bazaar. I think those are really fun. I like to watch podcast recordings on YouTube. So certain podcasts that I listen to will also upload to YouTube. So I love to watch those. Just kind of anything. I also love to do this while I'm folding laundry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so then I eat something quickly, clean up the lunch, and just put the kitchen back in order. And then I sit back down to do work. And like I said, I'll kind of do that for as long as the kids will stay calm. I feel like a lot of times I'm trying to just like ask them to give me space or ask them to give me time. And it's a little bit of a battle. I would say that's probably the hardest part of trying to be a work from home mom when your kids are around, is that they just constantly want something from you, or they're constantly like fighting with each other and you have to break up those fights. And I think there are some days when I really have to just like keep my head down and keep working. But if there's a day where there's nothing super pressing, I'm really trying now to just sort of give in and to realize that it's fluid. And as much as I would love to take like a batch of time and say, this is the amount of time I'm going to spend working, you can't really tell a 4-year-old, hey, mommy needs 2 hours here. You need to just like entertain yourself and not want a snack for those 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, and I think especially now in the summer, I'm trying to take a little bit more of a relaxed approach. My workload has been a little bit lighter and the parenting duties have obviously been a little bit heavier because they've only been in camp this current week and then last week, and then they're going to go for one more week, but they're going to really be home with me for a lot of the summer. So, just trying to give into the fluidity over the summer. And then
I feel like that's a common theme around being a mother in general around the summer, just because I don't know why it feels like the days are longer. Well, the days are longer in the summer with the light, but it just feels sometimes like the days are even longer than usual when bedtimes are the same.
Yeah. And I think that I have a lot of FOMO in the summer too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like if I'm not doing something fun and not really maximizing those few months, then it's just a waste. I think I've always been like that even before having kids, but yeah, it's really hard to feel like, the summer is so finite and it's so fleeting, but at the same time it's hard while you're in it.
Absolutely. And you're in an area too where the winter is also very pronounced. So you really feel like you need to take advantage of that summer even more.
Yeah.
I can absolutely relate to that. You mentioned
Yeah.
your husband sometimes has lunch with you. Is your husband work from home full time as well? So is he usually home both in the mornings and when the kids are home?
Yeah, so my husband is a consultant, so when he is in town, he's working from home, but he does travel pretty frequently. He's actually traveling right now. That's been the one really nice part of the post-COVID world is that he does travel less
Mm-hmm.
than he used to because it's pretty brutal when he travels and just between solo parenting and just dealing with the kids being sad that he's gone and just our whole routine is really thrown off. It's rough. So yeah, as little travel as possible.
I can absolutely relate to that. My husband travels as well for work, and when
Mhm.
it's not as frequent as a consultant, but when he does, it's usually international and for a while.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
when the kids were younger, it was a different dynamic because it's just more work on you, but they don't know what's
Mhm.
going on. And then now you mentioned their feelings about when your husband's gone. Dealing with that is as they've gotten older, a new component to that already stressful time and managing their
Mhm.
feelings too. It's interesting that you mentioned that because have felt very similarly, especially when my husband's been gone recently.
Yeah, and I feel like the kids always act out more when he's gone. It's hard all around.
And then I feel like when I'm gone, they're little angels. Like, what's going
Oh
on here,
yeah.
guys? Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
So when you officially wrap your day, what time is that usually
It
for
really,
work
really
perspective?
varies. It really varies. I would say usually it's like 3 p.m.
Mhm.
Sounds about right. Sometimes I'll jump on and do a little bit more when my husband is done with work and he is able to take the kids off my hands. But it really varies. I mean, some days I just, no matter what the kids need, I just have to keep going because I have a deadline. But I will say that similarly to what we were saying about, when you're a mom, you can be really efficient. I think when I have a deadline, that fire tends to just like push me through really quickly.
Mhm.
So I'm typically, have a lot of time left between when I wrap a deadline and when it's due.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it's not super often that I'm really, really scrambling, but sometimes I just have to tell the kids, you know what, I need to work now. You guys have to just entertain yourselves. And sometimes I just kind of give in if they want to play with me or if they want me to give them a snack or something. So I would say that those hours between when I am ready to kind of put work away and when my husband is done, a lot of times we'll spend those like playing outside. A lot of times we'll do some art. We like to bake together.
Mhm.
Some days they'll have a class or an activity out of the house. That part really kind of depends on the day. I don't have a ton of structure or anything really in mind. I really don't have expectations for that time of day. I would say that's probably the hardest time of day for me.
Mhm.
So yeah, we just kind of do whatever sounds good in the moment. I think on this particular day, we baked something that we had seen on TikTok. So yeah, we just kind of like to spend time together. And then my husband finishes work. It can be anywhere from 5 to like 7:30. I think on this particular day, he finished at about 5:30 and he took the kids to go and play. And at that point, I just kind of do whatever needs to be done. So if I need to get back on and work a little bit more, I will do that. If I need to put away laundry, I do that. If I need to make appointments, do scheduling stuff,
Mhm.
I'll do that. A lot of times I'll like start their dinner at that time, or I'll prep our dinner, or, just tidy up whatever needs to be cleaned up. My favorite thing to do is probably take a walk. So I love to just like get out for a nice long walk, especially now in the summer, just listen to a podcast and walk around our neighborhood. I think that's the best thing I can do for my health in a day. Like I'm not someone who loves to go and like sweat at the gym, but
Mhm.
I love those walks. Obviously the movement's great, but mentally it just does wonders for me. So if I can do that, I love to do that. And then the kids have dinner typically before we do. So, I know that everyone talks about the whole family dinner thing. It's just, it doesn't really work out that well in my family. We're never really ready to eat dinner when they are. We always still have stuff to do. And my husband likes to exercise. And like I said, I like to take that walk before it gets dark. So we typically just like feed them dinner. Sometimes in the summer, we'll do a family dinner because we're allowing them to eat a little bit later. So we'll maybe like grill out and sit outside and then let them go and play outside while we kind of finish up our lunch or our dinner. And, or sometimes we'll go out to a restaurant or something. But I would say the typical situation is one of us supervises the kids' dinner while the other one gets whatever needs to be done around the house.
What do your kids typically eat for dinner?
So my kids are, luckily, they're not picky at all. So it really varies. It can be anything from like they love pasta, they love like burrito bowls, they love fried rice. Sometimes they want like a burger, sometimes they want a burrito. It really varies. Like I said, we're very lucky. We feel really good about the fact that they're not picky. And I mean, who knows, that could change at any given time. But for right now, I'll take it.
I'm just sourcing some additional ideas. Our kids are the same age, and so burrito bowl sounds like one my son would really like. He's also not
Yeah.
super picky, but
Uh-huh.
he has a lot of opinions, and when you offer him two choices, he'll decide he wants whatever's not offered.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have one like that. My daughter is like that. Yeah. And then, so after the kids' dinner, we usually head up to start their bedtime process. So, supervise a shower, get them into their PJs, get their teeth brushed, do some stories, spend a few minutes together as a family. And then my husband will usually take our son and put him down, and my daughter and I will go and read another story. And then he'll come and he'll grab her and put her down. I would say that's like the one part of parenting that I just have not mastered is putting the kids to bed. um, I I feel like for so long my method of doing that was just to nurse them. And
Mhm.
now that I don't have that, I'm like, what do I do? How do I get you to sleep? So that's kind of my husband's domain. And then once they're in bed, I feel like I can take a deep breath.
Mhm.
And then I head downstairs and I make our dinner. And my husband often will exercise at this time. So I will, quickly cook our dinner and then we'll sit down and we'll eat. And that's something we really love to do because one, it's, I think, something that's great for our marriage. It's time that we spend just the two of us and we can talk about things that we can't necessarily discuss in front of the kids. And we also can just enjoy a meal, and we both really like to eat. So it's really nice for us to be able to like sit down and actually enjoy our dinner. So we love to do that. And then my husband cleans up after dinner. And I am a 2 showers a day person. So I go up and I take like a nice long hot shower at that point. And then I come down. If he's still cleaning up, I'll maybe watch a little bit of TV or maybe make the kids lunch for the next day and pack that. I like to just do that the night before so I'm
Mhm.
not scrambling in the morning. Maybe like tidy up the house a little bit. And then when he's done cleaning up, we'll sit down and we'll watch a show together, go up at like 11:30 for bed. And I like to read in bed every night. So I do that for like half an hour and then lights out, go to bed.
What are you reading right now?
I just started reading Same Time Next Summer.
Mhm.
I'm 2 chapters in. I'm not loving it so far, but I just finished Beach Read by Emily Henry, and that I really liked.
I loved that. I have
Yeah.
Same Time Next Summer. I just got it off the library because I loved her.
Yeah.
She's the one who wrote Nora,
Yeah. Yeah. I
that
haven't read that
that book.
one.
I loved Nora Goes Off Script. So I'm
Okay.
excited to read this one, but hopefully it picks up.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. Like
You
I said,
mentioned
I'm only 2 chapters in. So,
still early days.
yeah.
You mentioned you and your husband like to eat. What are some things that you guys typically cook, or what did you have for dinner last night, as an example? Because I too
Uh,
love food.
yeah. Well, last night he was out of
Oh
town.
yeah, right.
So, but Sunday night we did chicken tacos, which is
Mm.
maybe like the recipe that we make the most. We just marinate some chicken the night before. I make like a cilantro jalapeno sauce.
Mm.
We cook up the chicken, cook the tortillas, not cook, but heat the tortillas, and then just do the sauce and some avocado on top and some hot sauce. That's quick and easy, but still really good. We do a lot of pastas. We'll do like, he makes really good burgers, so he'll do that sometimes. Yeah, we really kind of like everything. So we mix it up a lot.
I love the having a together dinner at home. It really does. I feel like when we do our dinners with the kids, it's like someone's always bouncing up and down because you forgot the water, you forgot the paper towel, someone wants
Yeah.
more ketchup. And I feel like when we actually like settle down and eat together at home, it's so much nicer to like have an adult conversation and not be constantly bombarded with words or noises or
Yeah.
food being thrown.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's really nice. It's not forever. I think, we'll probably adopt the family dinner when our kids are in school more regularly and we're not spending quite as much time at home as a family together. But I think for right now, like we're really happy with the amount of time that we spend with our kids. They're around a lot, which is amazing and wonderful, but also tiring.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think right now it works well for us.
absolutely. In terms of what your days look like compared to what your ideal day would look like, what does your ideal day look like, or how would it differ from your typical day?
I would say my ideal day, the main difference between a typical day and the ideal day is probably just that we would spend more time, the four of us, on an ideal day. I think solo parenting, being one parent on two kids is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think two on two is really fun. And of course, it's still hard at times, but I think for the most part, it's just you can really enjoy each other's company and you can really just enjoy time as a family. And it's nice to have somebody to help you kind of manage the chaos. I mean, I think, like I mentioned, that we like to bake. We like to do it, but it's also, you have to have eyes in the back of your head because if you look away, you have a kid like dumping the flour all over the kitchen, or you have someone, trying to touch the oven while it's preheating. So, yeah, I mean, being one parent and managing two kids is tough. And I do a lot of that during the week. So I would say that would be the biggest thing that I don't have that would be ideal.
That sounds about right. In terms of what you guys bake, what are things that your kids like to bake a lot?
We like to do cookies. We'll do like oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. My husband doesn't like chocolate, which is so
Neither
bizarre
does
to
mine.
me.
I also
That's so
agree.
funny. Yeah. So sometimes we'll do something without chocolate. So my daughter, I mean, this is probably not the best thing to admit, but my daughter loves to watch TikToks with me. And so we love to watch like people making little recipes on TikTok and then
Yeah.
trying to recreate those. We just made these homemade Twix bars,
Ooh,
which are a little bit healthier. They're made with like almond flour and peanut butter, and they're really good. And so we made those recently. But yeah, we love to just like try different little recipes that we see online.
that's so fun. My son loves to cook as well, and I feel like it's enjoyable, as you mentioned, but I feel like I have to have everything like set out so that he can do it without
Yeah.
me being like frazzled the entire time.
Yeah.
Um, but that advanced preparation it takes toll on your thoughts and like, okay, how do I prep to make this as easy as possible for us to do this successfully?
Absolutely.
Um, During the day, you mentioned your walks. Are there other things that you do for yourself? Any other forms of self-care, however those manifest for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, and this sounds silly, but like watching TV for me can really feel like self-care.
Hmm.
A lot of times, like while my husband is cleaning up the kitchen, I'll watch the show that I want to watch. That's not necessarily something that he's interested in, but I think just like, especially I think after becoming a mom, like TV shows that you really don't have to think about have been
Hmm.
really great for me because I can just kind of put my brain on ice after the day and just sort of escape into something that's really like silly and low stakes. So I love doing that. I would say reading before bed is maybe not quite self care, but it's something that I just really love. And it's something that ends my day on a note that I really like. My husband always makes me a cup of herbal tea after he's done cleaning up the kitchen. So I sit and have that while we watch TV. And I've historically been a pretty bad sleeper, so that's been helpful. And then, like I said, that long shower, love that.
Yeah. What shows do you like watching for yourself, or anything that you're watching with your husband too? What has been on your watch list recently?
Yeah, I love all things Bachelor. So Bachelor,
Yeah.
Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise. I just watched The Bachelorette last night. I like all this kind of like reality dating shows. So I
Mhm.
liked Love is Blind on Netflix. I
Same.
watched the Perfect Match. I watched The
Yep.
Ultimatum. All those shows are great. This is so old, but I've been rewatching Laguna Beach. Do you remember Laguna
Hmm.
Beach?
Yep.
Because Kristen Cavallari and Stephen Colletti have a podcast about it now. So I've been watching the
Oh, interesting.
episodes and then listening, and it's the podcast is really good. I would recommend listening to it. They give you a lot of good behind the scenes intel. So that's been fun. And also listening to podcasts. I have podcasts on pretty much all day, and I love just like having that little bit of noise in the background while I'm doing, while I'm working, while I'm putting away laundry, cleaning, taking walks, whatever.
Absolutely. You mentioned when your husband takes the kids, you usually do like whatever needs to get done, scheduling dinner appointments, whatever. How do you keep yourself organized? How do you keep yourself and your family organized? But then how do you organize your work for your freelancing?
Yeah, I would say I don't really have a great system to keep the family organized. I would say it's all just kind of piecemeal, I guess is the best way to put it. But keeping the freelancing organized, I like to just have a Google Doc where I list out all my priorities and I
Mhm.
sort of rank them in terms of importance and list out all my deadlines there. I would say that's been sort of the best way to do it. Have a calendar, of course, but I think just like having that list of things prioritized has been helpful for me. And then organizing the family, it has been, I would say it hasn't been quite as hard because, like I said, childcare has been just sort of streamlined and I've been doing school, camp, but it's not like I'm coordinating with a bunch of different
Mhm.
babysitters or anything like some people might be. And then sending them to my parents is just so informal. Like
Mhm.
I can text my mom and just say, can I send them over for a few hours? And she'll say yes. And I just walk them right over. So I haven't needed to be quite as organized, I think, as some people.
That's so nice. Your kids must have such a special relationship with your parents. That's
They
really sad.
do. They do. They love going over there. A few days ago, my son was like, Mommy, can you go on a trip on an airplane so I can stay over there? Like, okay, if you really want me gone.
How do you make time for creativity during your day?
I would say that that's the one nice thing about my job is that I don't really need to try to make time for it. It's just so much a part of what I do that it just happens.
Mhm.
It's sort of forced creativity, which can sometimes stifle the process, but sometimes just having no other choice but to be creative can really be a good thing. So I would say that is not something that I really have to think about too much. It's just sort of a byproduct of doing what I do.
You write about parenting and motherhood. Is it mostly research based or kind of essays? How describe that for me?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I would say I'm doing more of the essay stuff now as a freelancer. When I was in-house, I was definitely doing more of the, writing about studies and talking to experts. I still talk to a lot of experts, but I would say that the stuff that they outsource to freelancers tends to be a little bit more of those voicey pieces where they really want someone with a specific perspective instead
Mhm.
of just giving it to somebody on staff who can sort of take themselves out of the story. So that's kind of it's been nice, but it's also been a little bit of a tough adjustment because I do feel like sometimes the stuff that I was really trained to do is going to the people in house. And I'm like, I could do that too. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Awesome. And then in terms of relationships, you mentioned the dinner with your husband being a priority there. How else do you make time for your relationship with your husband during the day or the week? What does that look like?
Yeah, I would say during the day, it's really that the dinner is really the big thing. But also just like, being able to pop in and just say hi while he's working is nice. It's typically not popping in to say hi, if we're being honest. It's typically like, oh, I need you to do this, or
Mhm.
can you take the kids for a second so I can like jump on a call quickly, or the kids are just like not letting me get anything done. Can you step away for a few minutes and manage the chaos? Or it's usually more like that. It's not typically like the super like connective and sweet, like, hi, I just wanted to come and check in. But yeah, we do a lot of, our dinners together. We try to get out and go out to dinner, but that probably happens like every 2 months or so,
Mhm.
that we'll have my mom babysit and the two of us will like go out and have a nice meal. I would say our kids are turning 5 this year, and we've had 2 weekends away, just the two of us, which have been great, but it's something that I think we'd like to do a little bit more of. That's, yeah, kind of it.
And in terms of relationships with friends, how has that manifested or evolved as you've become mom and crazy family life as everyone has at this time?
Yeah, I think that's maybe been the hardest part for me is maintaining friendships. I just feel like there are not enough hours in the day. And at the end of being a parent all day, a lot of times what you really need is time to yourself. So that has been really tough for me to figure out, is like how to make time for friendship. And we moved back to Pittsburgh, which is my hometown. We moved back 3 years ago from Chicago, but we were just saying we feel like we're still newbies here because we just haven't really had the opportunity to really get out and make friends and meet new people. Having the kids in preschool has been helpful, but just like having the time to actually do things with people. We were also just talking about this whole summer versus winter thing, whereas in the summer you want to do things, but everybody is so busy and there's so much travel and there are so many, birthday parties and festivals that you want to go to and so much going on that it's really hard to find time to see people. Whereas in the winter, people are pretty much open, but nobody really wants to do anything,
Mhm.
including me. So, yeah, just like trying to find that balance has been tough. And I would say that we don't have a ton of friends who live super close to us, which makes it even harder. So, yeah, that is a work in progress for me.
Have you found it's been easier to meet parents with similar aged kids now that your kids are in preschool, or are you finding that it's still kind of hard to make friends with those fellow parents in similar scenario?
I have found that it's easier to do that. And I do have a lot of friends who just happen to have kids around the same time as I did, which is great. But I think it's also really hard with kids who are this age because leaving them can be a little bit of a production, and you also want your kids to be friends with your friends' kids. But a lot of times when you get together with the kids, you're just chasing after them and you can't even really catch up or talk. So I think that's been a real challenge. I'm hoping that in the next few years the kids can be a little bit more independent and the parents can just sort of like hang back and talk to each other a little bit more.
I feel like passive parenting is the goal in those scenarios, and it feels like it's taking a while to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of priorities in your daily life, what is a ball that you're letting drop or something that you're conscious about deprioritizing because it's not fitting in your current schedule? If there's nothing,
I
that's
love
fine.
this question. Yeah, I think that's so important to ask because it's important to talk about how you make it all work, but it's also important to talk about what doesn't work. So I love that you're asking that. I think the biggest thing for me is just not working full time right now. It just, without hired childcare that's really available full time, it's just not really feasible for me. So I let it go. And it is hard. It's still hard, even though I've firmly made that decision now to feel like I am leaving opportunities on the table, or I'm leaving money on the table, or I'm not doing quite as much as I could or quote unquote should be doing. I think that's been tough for me. That's the biggest thing. And then also like the family dinner. I think that's something that we've just kind of had to say no to in order to make everything else fit in the day. I'm not great about exercising. Like I said, I love to take those walks, but I try to do, like, we have a Peloton, and I can't even tell you the last time I was on that thing.
Same.
Yeah.
Mine's gathering dust.
Yeah. Friendships, it's another thing that just I haven't been able to invest in quite as much as I would have liked to. Yeah, there's a few things, but I would say working full time has been the biggest one.
Hmm. And in terms of kind of things that you prioritize but need to outsource, is there anything that you regularly outsource, like groceries or a cleaner or something that you can think of in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a cleaner once a week, and that has been so nice for
Hmm.
us. Such a game changer. For groceries, we do delivery most of the time. We do Amazon Whole Foods delivery. On weekends, we love to go out and do groceries as a family, but during the week, it's just nice to have it all delivered. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned your weekends. What do your weekends typically look like with two active kids, almost five? What do your weekends look like these days?
Yeah, I would say we like to get out as much as we can on weekends. I like a lazy morning. We like to, wake up and have breakfast at home and coffee and just kind of chill for a little while. But then we like to get out and we really like to run errands with the kids. We'll drive into the city and we'll go, get all the different groceries we like from different places. We'll grab some lunch, maybe take them to the park. In the summer now, like I can never really say no to ice cream. So we've been doing a lot of ice cream runs.
Hmm.
So yeah, just kind of, figuring out as we go. It really is weather dependent a lot of the time. And then, coming home and hanging out. We just got a water table for the backyard for the kids. So they've been loving putting their bathing suits on and going outside and playing with that. So that's been really fun. At some point, I usually like to tackle some laundry on weekends. And then weekends are the days that we like to do takeout. So we'll get the kids to bed, and then my husband will usually go and pick up something, and then we'll have takeout after they're asleep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Zara, thank you so much for chatting about your days. I would love to know, where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just Zara Hanawalt, first name, last name. You could follow me there. I will post some of my work there sometimes. Otherwise, just kind of Googling my work is probably the best way to learn more.
Awesome. And then what is your favorite part about a day in your life?
I would say I love those morning snuggles with the kids. And I also love to read before bed. It's basically anything I can do in bed.
I I love that so many of the guests that I've had talk about how their bed is like their happy place, and I feel like
Yeah.
that definitely is true.
Yeah, I think it's nice to be able to start and end your day off doing something that feels, relaxing and peaceful too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Zara, for joining us on today's episode. It was so nice to chat.
Of course. Thank you for having me.